Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Crime Time with Dr. Debbie. I'm your host, Dr. Debbie Goodman, and we are here on the beautiful campus of St. Thomas University in Miami Gardens. And I am so pleased and delighted to welcome our special guests for today from the Miami Gardens Police Department. We have Detective St. Fleur and Detective Robinson. Hello and welcome to
Hello.
both of you.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's my distinct honor, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules today to speak directly to our students who really have an interest in what you do day to day as they want to follow in your footsteps. So may we please begin, Detective St. Fleur and certainly Detective Robinson, just to have you tell our students a little bit about yourselves, please.
Okay, I'm Detective Stephanie St. Fleur. I've been in law enforcement for about 15 years. I did my first 3 years at the City of Miami Police Department, and then I came over here to the Miami Gardens Police Department. I grew up in Miramar. I did elementary school, middle school, high school there, and then I got my bachelor's degree from Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University, also known as FAMU. Very proud rattler. And then I started, right after I graduated, I started my police career. Right
Wow.
now, I am a sex crimes detective, SVU, with the Miami Gardens Police Department.
Excellent.
And I've been doing that for about 4 years.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
service. And Detective Robinson.
Good morning. Well, yeah, good afternoon, actually. Detective Robinson, Xavier Robinson. I've been with the City of Miami Gardens now for almost 7 years. Prior to that, I worked in the private sector, private security, and as an emergency manager. Overall, I've got 18 years in this business. And I am assigned to the Special Victims Unit. We both are.
Yeah.
I work in domestic violence.
Okay, well, thank you as well, sir, for your wonderful service. Well, let's dive right into our conversation. For our students who are thinking about this, and certainly the idea of being a detective sounds very exciting, but might we just get a little glimpse, let's call it, into your window?
Mm-hmm.
What would a day in the life of your direct work be like?
Okay. Well, first, I am a parent first. I have a daughter who's 8 and I have a son who's 22. He's currently in the military. So my day starts off with first making sure she gets to school. So once I get her off and ready to school, I go ahead and head to work. I have a heavy caseload. So my caseload consists of a lot of cases. Some of my cases are child abuse, some are elderly abuse, some are sexual battery involving minors and adults. So most of the time I get into the office, I open up my computer, I check my emails because I'm always getting emails on and off of work. We check our emails to see what we have to do. Sometimes I have to go to DCF. Sometimes I have to go to the Christie House or CPT. And CPT is the Child Protective Team where they do our interviews for victims of children victims, where they go and give their statements. I check my calendar. Sometimes I have people coming in to give statements. Sometimes I have to get with Detective Robinson and we go and check cameras. We go knock on doors. I'm looking for suspects. There's days we can come dressed professional, and there's days that we come and put on our BDUs and our Miami Gardens t-shirts and our vests because we have to go knock on doors and look for people with warrants. So each day is different. Some days we might have something scheduled and something else happens, so we don't get to do what's scheduled. Each day is never really planned. We just kind of go with the flow and see what we can get done today because you never know what's going to happen.
Wow. Very interesting, exciting, but also
Yes.
at times with an element of safety concerns.
Yes, it can
Absolutely.
be hectic some days.
Absolutely. Detective Robinson, what might your day look like?
So I try to start off my day. I try to start off every day on a positive note. With this job and this business, it's real easy to see a many dark days. So I try to make sure, even when I'm at my desk, I play inspirational music or just sometimes music without any lyrics, just to make sure I keep my thoughts pure and unclouded, right?
Yeah.
So a day for us in Special Victims, like she said, we sometimes have an idea of what we may want to do, but then just like yesterday, whereas we intended to do, we all have our own caseloads. So she has a heavy caseload. I have a heavy caseload, like 300 plus cases
Wow, that's
that
heavy.
are
I was
active.
thinking heavy caseload, maybe 25 cases.
No. Yeah, and I just got some more additional cases today. So as you know, we set our real personal goals for us to knock down our caseload. But yesterday we had to assist another detective in taking a attempted murder suspect into custody.
Exactly.
So we had to put everything on hold, and we all went out and actually we were able to apprehend him yesterday. So it was very good for us.
Well,
Yes,
congratulations
that was a
on
win for our team.
Absolutely, to get him off the streets. So
Of course.
I once I get into the office, I see what I already have planned for myself, but also, we're a team. So if this person needs help with, like she said, collecting evidence or surveillance, we all pitch in. We try to help each other. It's a really large caseload, but
Yes.
if we've learned that how to adapt is if we share. So if we're all helping each other out, it helps us to knock it out, knock it our case.
A good team makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely.
You can work well with your partners and your other detectives. It makes the job a lot easier.
Yes. There's no I in team.
Exactly.
No,
Very good.
not at all.
Clearly, with so many years of experience, 15 years, 18 years, and going, might you each tell us, our students, about a particular case that stood out to you, whether it was good, whether it was bad, but just to hear the type of circumstance.
I think my most memorable case was it was my first case as a sexual battery detective. So I come in and I get this file, and this family now lives in North Carolina. But when they were now 30. I have two victims who were twins. They were 30 at the time, and the other victim was 28, their younger sister. At the time of the assault, they were 10 and 8 years old, and this occurred in Miami Gardens. So I'm like, okay, so this happened over 20 years ago. How do I deal with a case like this?
Yes.
So it was a lot of research. Of course, I had to figure out the statute of limitations on my first case. So the statute of limitations on a child under 12 years old, which there is no statute of limitations. Their father was the one sexually abusing them, having intercourse with all three of his children. And I was like stuck, like, how do I prove this case, being that it happened so long ago? The good thing is I had three victims. The next thing was the father, he wrote a note. And when he wrote that note, it was captured on their ring camera of him putting the envelopes in the mailbox, stating that I apologize for what I've done. I was sick in the head. I didn't mean to do these things. I was your father. I was supposed to protect you.
Yes.
He never admitted to saying, yes, I apologize for the sex act. He never said that, but that was enough to get an arrest. So I did a search. I did an arrest warrant, and he was captured in North Carolina. He was sent down here. After the case closed, he was sentenced to life in prison.
Excellent. Wow. Congratulations. That's so hard. But
Yes.
Justice for the
And the
victims.
details from that case, I can remember it like a movie and playing in my head from the details, the interviews from all three victims. I can write a book about it because I can picture it like a movie.
Wow. So sad. Yet
Very sad.
At least thankfully, through your good work, justice for the victims.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. Detective Robinson, one case throughout the years. I'm sure there's so many, but one you might want to share.
So there's one case that's the most memorable to me. It's actually before I even got into the bureau. There was an incident where the nephew ends up killing his uncle. So he just got out of prison. He had a prison stint for about 10 years. And the reason why I remember it so vividly is because it was during the holiday season. So this is around Christmas. So everyone's celebrating. Everyone's, naturally happy because, it's the season. And I remember the call coming out, and I was on patrol at the time. And the call was for Area 2. And it was... the subject was stabbing her husband, the subject being her nephew. And so officers arrive on the scene. Is a very gruesome scene inside. But prior to getting inside, we only knew that the subject had stabbed the uncle. We didn't know the severity. We didn't know if it was just one stab or what was going on inside of the house. Once we got there, we then learned that the aunt came on scene. She gave us a key to give us access to enter the property. And after getting inside, we learned the nephew had stabbed the uncle about 40 something times. So, yeah. So if you, and God, you know, hopefully you never have to see a scene like that, but it's a really, it's everything's fresh and it's gruesome and it's in real time. And so, as a law enforcement officer, you have to, number one, keep your wits about yourself, but you're also trying to preserve life at the same time, not trying to get injured yourself or have anyone else that's on the team get injured. So there's a lot of moving parts at the same time. But we were able to get him into custody, and right then and there, we didn't have to. This didn't become a manhunt. This didn't become a 2-week, 3-month kind of ordeal. And I was actually really, really happy to get that individual off the street, because for him to do something like that to his uncle, right? He's not going to.
No.
Yeah, law enforcement doesn't stand a chance, or anyone else.
Exactly.
Can't have this person on the streets for sure.
And then ultimately it ends up being domestic, which is what I'm now assigned to. So,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Thank you both for the incredible service and the way in which you handle these cases. And then it would lead me to think about, the mental health aspect now to all of this with our police professionals, our first responders. Can you share with our viewers and listeners just your thoughts about mental health as it relates to the law enforcement field and audience?
I know with our cases, we deal with trauma every day. We never get a case and it's a happy-go-lucky case. It's always some form of trauma dealing with our cases. So when it comes to the mental health, we all have to find our own outlet. Like Xavier said before, we come in and he plays his gospel music. I play my gospel music as well, so that kind of starts the day off. And we kind of start up in an upbeat manner because we're both singing and we're dancing around the office, laughing, singing our gospel music, something that we both have in common. And when it comes to mental health with officers, you have to have some sort of outlet, someone to talk to, someone to speak about, whether it's your family, your kids, a therapist, somebody, because you're dealing with trauma every day and it's hard to shake that when you get off of work. So it's a constant battle every day. It's a constant, you have to pick yourself up every day. And mental health with police officers and law enforcement, we have a high rate of suicide,
Yes.
a high rate of alcohol abuse. So with mental health, it is really serious, and we have to always make sure that we look out for each other and kind of pat each other on the back and say, how you doing today? How's everything? And pay attention to your colleagues, pay attention to the people that you work with, pay attention to yourself. If you're having a bad day, there's days I wake up and say, Sarge, I need a mental break. I'm not going to come in today. And she's like, okay. She has never told me, no, you cannot take a day off, because I need it.
Yeah.
We deal with trauma all day, every day. So sometimes you have to know yourself and say, okay, enough is enough. Let me take that break. Let me take that week off. Let me go and exhale, whatever way that is, and find a healthy way to do it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, it's imperative. You can't. So, in this police business, most people, when they call the police, it's because it's the worst day of their life, and they want the police to respond and resolve the issue, whatever the issue may be. But for police, that can be 4 or 5, 6 times a day that you're going to calls like this, and it's a very traumatic experience. So you have to have an outlet. You have to have something that helps you digress. And it's easier if it's not always police related. If you can have something completely separate from this business, if you have friends that are they're in a completely different career, that way, when we're off, or in my experience, when I'm off, I don't want to talk about police. I don't want to talk about my caseloads. I don't want to talk about work, because you need to have a legitimate separation. Just for your mental health, you have to take those breaks. Staff sees kids that are injured on a daily basis. As a parent, that affects you. That you take that. Yeah. You take that with you. Some cases it's like the previous question, the most memorable cases. It's hard for you to just think about one, because you have so many going through your mind, and they go through. This is consistent. So, you may think this happened, this is done, and we're over it, we're done, we're through it. No, it lives on.
There's
You know?
always something that happens that reminds you of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The way you
So-
deal with your own family, the way you deal with your own kids, sometimes is because of something that you saw at work.
So yeah, even with your colleagues, what she says very important. You have to watch each other. If you see like there's a clear change, something's wrong, something's up. You got to speak on it, because in our profession, suicide rates are through the roof, divorce rates are through the roof, and it's all stemmed from trauma. So absolutely, mental health is a really, really big thing.
Absolutely. Thank you both for your thoughts there. And as we move forward in our conversation, you both communicate so well, and we know that communication is key in the profession. So perhaps you could just share your philosophies with how and your approach and your goals to communicating with the community.
Well, there's different type of communities. You have your community within where you work. You have your community within your church. You have your community amongst your family. So, you in every community you might communicate a little bit different depending what type of community you're in. But when it comes to our work community, we just try to do things like this. We try to make contact. We try to be out there and actually able to touch someone and speak and have a good rapport with people, because the best type of communication is, face to face, having a rapport. So somebody can say, "Oh, I know Detective St. Fleur. I know Detective Robinson." Well, they can actually say, "I know that person," and have a rapport with that person, so they can relate to us.
Right.
And let them know that we're not just police officers, we're humans too. We're not a robot. Like, we feel what you feel. We have the empathy. The same things you're going through, some of us are going through at home. So we just try to have that clear communication and be present for the people in our communities.
Very important, very good. So they see you as human beings first,
Exactly.
and your role as police officers, you're still accessible and
Exactly.
able to empathize and such.
Absolutely, it's a big deal. Whenever we get the opportunity for speaking engagements, or whenever we get the opportunity to educate the community on what we do, as well as law enforcement historically is responsive to whatever occurs. It's always a little bit behind the curb. So we like to do preventive kind of measurements. Proactive
Exactly.
policing, absolutely. So you go to the communities, whether it be religious based, whether it be a professional, collegiate, we talk to them and tell them, "Hey, listen, this is going on. This is what we see a spike in. And you know what? Here's how to avoid XYZ. Here's how to avoid going to jail. Here's how to avoid, domestic violence." And so we try to educate, and absolutely, we want you to see us not just as police officers or law enforcement figures, but to see us also as human.
Exactly.
We live in the very same communities that we police in.
Yes.
And so, the last thing that we want to do is to arrest anyone if we can help prevent and educate.
Excellent. Thank you.
Agree.
Just hearing you speak and understanding the field and knowing that there are so many challenges, perhaps you could share with our students some of the challenges that either you face or the colleagues face just being in the criminal justice profession.
The news, the media. You see in other states, one officer got into an involved shooting and someone was killed, and they look at everyone the same way.
Right.
If you have 10 apples, there might be a bad apple in every case. So don't automatically assume that we're all alike.
Yeah.
Everyone is different. All officers are different. And for us, we call out the bad officers. If we work with any, we call it out. We don't hide anything. This is our career. This is our job. This is how we make our bread and butter to take care of our kids. And not only that, we have empathy for people. So we don't want everyone to think that we're all alike or we're all doing a bad job, because we are really here for our community. So that is what makes it hard for us sometimes.
Yes.
That everyone looks at us like we're bad. When you call us, we're there to help.
Yes. So these unfair labels
Exactly.
or thoughts.
We don't just pull up to your house for no reason. We're there because you called us, and now we're here to help.
Detective Robinson, some challenges.
Transparency is a major challenge. Like she just explained, social media sometimes shows only the part that's juicy, that's going to get the most views, but it doesn't show you the rest of 30 minutes. You got about a 30-second clip of exactly.
The money we take out of our
Exactly.
own pockets to help people for Christmas. We do
Absolutely.
Christmas events, and we take money out of our own pockets to help children that we see that are in need, families that are in need. We've taken money out of our pockets to feed people, to supply, school supplies and gifts for people just because we know these people are in need, even on our own cases.
Wow.
You need a
Yeah.
hotel for the night, he might give you some money for a hotel for the night.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a challenge in law enforcement overall because what a lot of people forget is when we're not in a uniform, we're still a human being. And, we have the same fears that they have. I don't want a bad interaction with law enforcement. Because I can't just identify myself as law enforcement to get a courtesy. So I want that officer to treat me with the same dignity and respect as he treat anyone else without knowing that I'm law enforcement.
Exactly.
Right,
And we
right.
both have sons. We teach our sons if
Yes.
you come across a police officer how to act. If you're-
Absolutely.
if
How
you ever-
to
I have two
interact.
sons, and we
Exactly.
discuss these issues at home
and
as
you
well.
discuss them exactly.
Yes, and as we spoke before the show started, CPR.
Absolutely. Courtesy,
Professionalism,
professional
and
respect.
Thank you, everybody, with that.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about some of the pathways for each of you, because to be involved 15 years, 18 years, quite the journey.
hmm
Take us along that path a little bit, if you can.
I went to college for criminal justice. When I was in college, I worked for a law office. It was Annabelle Diaz and Associates. I'll never forget. She was a lawyer, and I got a job with her as a secretary. I would go to the jails. If someone wanted to hire a lawyer, I would go and do an intake. What is your case about? What happened? I'll just get the initial information from that person and relay it to the attorney. So while I was working there and in criminal justice, I was thinking, okay, I think I could do police work, being a police officer. I graduated. I was getting ready to move back to Miami, and she was like, I can get you a job as the Tallahassee Police Department. You can work for them. I was like, no, I kind of want to go back home. As soon as I got home, I started applying to all the agencies. A year later, I got hired with the city of Miami, so that's how I started.
Very good.
So I'm one of the few. I've wanted to always be into law enforcement. So my career actually started off in middle school because I became a police explorer. And interesting enough is the school resource officer that gave me the application to become a police explorer worked in Miami Gardens. After years later, we ended up working together in the same agency. So it became full circle. So from 13 until 19, I was an explorer. And then after 19, I was in college. And then I had an opportunity to work for Department of Corrections. And they hired me. And I loved it. And then I thought, you know what? I still want to be a police officer. There's an opportunity for me to become a police officer. So I took it. And then in doing so, I also made one of the best decisions ever and became a proud member of the United States Coast Guard,
Wow.
the best branch there is.
Okay.
And so that's the bulk of my career from knowing that I wanted to be in law enforcement forever, from middle school and then to joining, and then obviously along the way, I still stayed into law enforcement, but I wanted to venture out into security, and then I did that, and then ultimately, I still had the bite, I still had the bug, so I came back to law enforcement full time.
Great stories from you both. Thank you so much. We know that it's so important to really have a multitude of skill sets, and I just want to make sure that our students understand, getting involved in this profession, you've got to be talented. So can each of you please tell the students about what skill sets do you think are most important today? What would those who are in hiring positions be looking for?
Communication is key. Communication in every field is needed. And while we're here too, we also continue training. There's different trainings that we go to. I think you just did a
I
training.
just took an investigations course.
Yeah. So while we're in investigation, we take interview and interrogations, criminal investigations. I took a adult sex crimes course. I took a child abuse course. We take a lot of different trainings to continue learning because it doesn't stop here.
Yeah, this is an ever-evolving field.
Yeah.
So whatever tools and resources that you can gain along the way, it's only going to make you a better asset. Communication is a really big thing in law enforcement, and not just being able to communicate on paper, but you need to also be able to speak to people. And the younger generation, I see I've learned they struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyone younger, anyone newer that's coming into this profession, that's just something that you're going to have to consider. You need to speak to people. You need to be able to interact with people. And you need to also have diversity and be cultured, because
Exactly.
in this business, you don't know who's going to answer the door. I don't know who I'm going to speak to.
Right.
And every culture handles things differently.
Right.
And we have to know that, and we learn that from experience.
Right. So, you just have to, and then whatever interactions you have, you have to take it all in, and, CPR.
CPR.
Gotta have it.
Exactly.
And believe it or not, it's been so enjoyable speaking with you both. We're almost out of time and ending the show, but perhaps just to give you a few last words and maybe just overall advice for the students to help them succeed in this pathway.
Whatever it is that you want to do, you just have to do your research on it. Step out on faith, do your research, and go out and just try to get whatever that is that you want to do. Make sure that you put, everything into it and really try your best to get it done. Don't give up, because it's not going to be easy. A job like this is not easy to get. You do your applications. It might take a year or two. You might get turned down. You apply for another department. You have to go to the police academy. That's not going to be easy, but it's worth it in the end. So don't give up.
Great. Thank you. Detective, you get the last word, Detective.
Absolutely. Stay the course. If you generally want to be in law enforcement and you're genuine about this career path, this is a very rewarding career path. But like she said, it's not easy. It's not easy because it's not supposed to be. We endure a lot. So make sure that, you're faithful to what your beliefs, and then you talk to your family, you talk to your support system, because you're going to need them. Once you decide that this is what you genuinely want to do, and you can do it, because we've all done it. We've all started from nowhere, and here we are.
Right.
So
If we can do it, you can do it.
absolutely.
I tell my boys, work hard in silence, let success be the noise.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Well, what a pleasure it has been, and an honor to have you both as our featured guests. Thank you so much, Detective Stephanie St. Fleur, Detective Xavier Robinson. Ladies and gentlemen, our students, thank you all so much for tuning in to Crime Time with Dr. Debbie. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.